Hello, welcome back to LM Teachers English. This is lesson 8 of The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, the play edition, which is an AQA set text for your GCSEs for the modern play for literature paper 2. And just to bear in mind, there is no extract in this section of the exam. You're given simply a choice of 2 questions, one character based, one theme based, and it's up to you to write about various sections of the play and to have a knowledge of key quotes. So you are expected to know quotes off by heart, if not word for word, at least so that you can get the gist. So I really recommend, while we're reading this, that if you have your own copy, you highlight constantly key quotes. If you don't, you will need to write down, perhaps pause the video and write down key quotes as we're going. I won't always point these out, so sometimes it'll be up to you. I do also recommend with any set text, GCSE, A-level, whatever level you're at, it's always good to read the text more than once, because the first time you're reading it, you're seeing it as just an average reader would. The second time you read it, you can start to analyse it, which is what the examiner wants you to do. So the more you analyse, the more you evaluate as well, the better your grade will be. And the more fun you'll have as well doing it, because, you know, it's one thing just to point out that Christopher's sad or angry, but it's even more interesting if you can explain why, and that is where the fun lies in English. So previously in the last lesson we were doing, Christopher had just found a letter from his mother, and the letter was written 18 months after after his mother had died. So Christopher is very confused at the moment, and he's said here that he doesn't want to think about it anymore in case he leap to the wrong conclusion. So very interesting there. The writer has used all caps. Bear in mind this is a script, so it's written for somebody to perform, not necessarily to be read off the page. But if you think about Christopher, why might that be in capital letters? I mean, for one thing, Christopher's already told us he doesn't like metaphors, he doesn't like idioms, doesn't really understand them, and this is clearly a metaphor, to leap to the wrong conclusions. So Christopher's put it in capital letters here, so to show that the character should emphasise it, because he is using metaphorical language. So that was where we left Christopher. We also saw another side of Ed, quite a violent side of Ed. We saw him as someone who can easily lose control, so we're bearing that in mind as we're reading today. So today we're going to have a read through, but there is a big focus on Judy in this lesson. So that's going to be what I would like you to focus on. We're going to try and read as much as we can today, so I will, in the 15 minutes we've got here, so I'll stop talking and start reading. The next day, Christopher comes home from school. "You're soaking." "Yes." "Give me your coat and I'll hang it up." "How was school?" "It was good, thank you." Joseph Fleming took his trousers off and went to the toilet all over the floor of the changing room and started to eat it, but Mr. Davis stopped him. "Good old Mr. Davis, eh? Joseph eats everything." "Does he?" "He once ate one of the little blocks of blue disinfectant which hang inside the toilets, and he once ate a £50 note from his mother's wallet, and he eats string and rubber bands and tissues and writing paper and paints and plastic forks, and he bangs his chin and screams a lot." "I know how he feels." "Christopher, Tyrone said that there was a horse and a pig in the poo, so I said he was being stupid, but Siobhan said he wasn't. They were small plastic animals from the library that the staff used to make people tell stories, and Joseph had eaten them." "Christopher, I've got to go out." "Why?" "I've just had a call. There's a lady. Her cellar has flooded. I've got to go and fix it." "Is it an emergency?" "Yes, mate." "Why can't Rodrigo?" "He's already out on a call." "So there are 2 emergencies." "That's right, mate." "It is raining very heavily." "It is. The rain looks like white sparks." "Christopher, if I go, will you be okay?" "Yes, I will, because there's no one around, because everybody's staying indoors." Good. Good lad. "I like looking at the rain." "Terrific. I like it because it makes me think how all the water in the world is connected." "I'll have my mobile with me." "Yes. So you can call me if there's a problem." "Yes. Behave yourself, Christopher, yeah?" "Yes." Ed exits. So I went to his bedroom and opened up the cupboard and lifted the toolbox off the top of the shirt box and opened the shirt box. I counted out the letters. There were 43 of them. They were all addressed to me in the same handwriting. I took one and opened it. Inside was this letter. As Judy reads, so Christopher begins to assemble his train set. His building becomes frantic, at times almost balletic. So that's important to note. While this is being performed on the stage, Judy, the character, is there reading out the letters that Christopher is reading. But Christopher, while he's reading these letters, he's building a train set. So it's interesting to consider why he might be doing that. We know that he likes logic and order, and we know that he likes trains and building things. So why might he do that while he's discovering something quite upsetting and quite something that's uncertain, that he didn't know before, something new? Why would he be turning to trains at this point? Have a little think about that. 451C, Chapter Road, London, NW2 5NG 020 888 78907. I was looking through some old photos last night, which made me sad. Then I found a photo of you playing with the train set we bought for you a couple of Christmases ago, and that made me happy because it was one of the really good times we had together. Do you remember how we played with it all day and you refused to go to bed at night because you were still playing with it? We told you about train timetables and you made a train timetable, and there was a little wooden station too, and we showed you how people who wanted to go on the train went to the station and bought a ticket and then got on a train, and you played with it for weeks and weeks and weeks. I like remembering that a lot. Then I opened another envelope. This was the letter that was inside. Christopher continues to build a train set. It should be as big as he can possibly make it. He makes it with attention and detail as the letter continues. Dear Christopher, I said that I wanted to explain you why I went away when I had the time to do it properly. So now I have lots of time. So I'm sitting on the sofa here with this letter and the radio on, and I'm going to try and explain. I was not a very good mother, Christopher. Maybe if things had been different, maybe if you'd been different, I might have been better at it. But that's just the way things turned out. I'm not like your father. Your father is a much more patient person. He just gets on with things, and if things upset him, he doesn't let it show. But that's not the way I am, and there's nothing I can do to change it. Do you remember once when we were shopping in town together and we went into Bentl's and it was really crowded and we had to get a Christmas present for Grandpa, and you were frightened because of all the people in the shop? It was the middle of Christmas shopping when everyone was in town, and I was talking to Mr. Land, who works on the kitchen floor and went to school with me. And you crouched down on the floor and put your hands over your ears, and you were in the way of everyone, so I got cross because I don't like Christmas. I don't like shopping at Christmas either. And I told you to behave, and I tried to pick you up and move you, but you shouted and you knocked those mixers off the shelf, and there was a big crash, and everyone turned around to see what was going on, and Mr. Land was really nice about it, but there were boxes and bits of string and bits of broken bowl on the floor, and everyone was staring, and I saw that you had wet yourself, and I was so cross. And I wanted to take you out of the shop, but you wouldn't let me touch you, and you just lay on the floor and screamed and banged your hands and feet on the floor. And the manager came and asked me what the problem was, and I was at the end of my tether, and I had to pay for 2 broken mixers, and we just had to wait until you stopped screaming. And then I had to walk you all the way home, which took hours because I knew you wouldn't go on the bus again. And I remember that night, I just cried and cried and cried, and your father was really nice about it at first, and he made you supper and put you to bed, and he said these things happen and it would be okay. But I said I couldn't take it anymore, and eventually he got really cross and he told me I was being stupid and said I should pull myself together, and I hit him, which was wrong, but I was so upset. We had a lot of arguments like that because I often thought I couldn't take it anymore. And your father is really patient, but I'm not. I get cross even though I don't mean to, and by the end we stopped talking to each other very much because we knew it would always end up in an argument, and I felt really lonely. And that was when I started spending lots of time with Roger. And I know you might not understand any of this, but I wanted to try and explain so that you knew. We had a lot in common, and then we realised that we were in love with one another. I said I couldn't leave you, and he was sad about that, but he understood that you were really important to me. And you started to shout, and I got cross, and I threw the food across the room, which I knew I shouldn't have done. You grabbed the chopping board and you threw it, and it hit my foot and broke my toes. And afterwards at home, your father and I had a huge argument. I couldn't walk properly for a month. Do you remember? And your father had to look after you. And I remember looking at the two of you and seeing you together and thinking how you were really different with him, much calmer. And it made me so sad because it was like you didn't need me at all. And then I think then I realised you and your father were probably better off if I was living in the house, if I wasn't living in the house. And Roger asked me if I wanted to come with him. And it broke my heart, but eventually I decided it would be better for all of us if I went. And so I said yes. And I meant to say goodbye, but when I rang, your father said he said I couldn't. He was really angry. He said I couldn't talk to you. And I didn't know what to do. He said I was being selfish and that I was never to set foot in this house again. And so I haven't. I wonder if you can understand any of this. I know it'll be difficult for you. I thought what I was doing was for the best of all of us. I hope it is. Christopher, I never meant to hurt you. I used to have dreams that everything would get better. Do you remember you used to say that you wanted to be an astronaut? Well, I used to have these dreams where you were an astronaut and you were on television, and I thought, that's my son. I wonder what it is that you want to be now. Has it changed? Are you still doing maths? I hope you are. Loads and loads of love, Mother. Okay, so we're going to read a little bit more, but very quickly I want to ask you a question that I would like you to have a go answering, please. And that is, this section here, which you probably noticed I struggled to switch between my voices, is broken up between Judy and Siobhan's voices narrating this. So we know actually that neither of those people are, if this was a real life situation, it's Christopher in a room reading these letters. So if anything, he would have his mother's voice in his head reading these letters. Why does it sometimes, in the play, why would Stephens have it sometimes said from Judy's voice and sometimes from Siobhan's voice? And I think the fun thing about this question is you can answer this as many times as you want to. You can give many different answers to that question. So don't feel restricted to just give one answer, because there is not one right answer. Artists will often do something like this, that they want you to interpret in different ways, because it makes the play or the piece of art or whatever it is that this artist has created, it makes it more personal to you. So if you want to say that the writer has done this to create such and such a feeling, and that's how it made you feel, then that's great, because then the artist will feel like, wow, I've made something personal to this person. Alternatively, if you can give different points of view, the examiner can see that you've analysed and you've considered this. You haven't just gone with the first thing that popped into your head. You've really sat down and thought about it. So why, again, has Simon Stephens had this letter being read out in two different voices, and why is Christopher making his train tracks as well? So let's read on here. We've got a couple of minutes left, so we might not get to the end of this section, but we'll try. Christopher moves to the middle of the track. He crouches down, he rolls himself into a ball, he starts hitting his hands and his feet and his head against the floor as the letter continues. His thrashing has exhausted him. He has been sick. He lies still for a while, wrapped in a ball. So you can see that Christopher's reaction is very, very extreme. His mother is being extremely honest, as opposed to his father, who is quite cagey and doesn't share things. Is that what's best for Christopher? We'll find out. Christopher doesn't respond. Christopher, what the hell are you doing? What are you? These are, oh shit, oh Christ. Christopher doesn't move or respond. Ed stops himself from crying. It was an accident. Christopher doesn't respond. I don't know what to say. I was in such a mess. I said she was in hospital because I didn't know how to explain. It was so complicated. And once I'd said that, I couldn't change it. It got out of control. Christopher doesn't respond. After a time, Ed approaches him. Very, very gently, he touches his shoulder. Christopher doesn't respond. Oh, Jesus, Christopher, you got sick all over you. Let's sit you up and get your clothes off and get you into bed, okay? I'm going to have to touch you, but it's going to be all right. Ed lifts Christopher onto the side of the bed. Christopher doesn't resist or fight at all. Ed takes Christopher's jumper and shirt off. Right, we're going to leave it there. We're right in the middle of this tense moment. The climax is here. But we're going to have to leave it there because we're coming up to 15 minutes. So have a look at that section, different voices reading the letters. Have a look at Judy as a character, and have a look at Christopher's reaction. All right, thanks. See you next time. Bye.